I look outside today and I realize why I retired. It's a beautiful day. A day of sermon preparation is a little bit of a struggle, but not with this passage. We're going to look Sunday at the gathering at Sandestin at what usually turns out to be one of the favorite Bible verses listed by everyone. When they're asked, what are your top 5 Bible stories? Somewhere in there is the story that we often call the prodigal son. It could easily have other names, and I've heard it called the parable of the loving father, who really is the star of the parable. I've heard it called the parable of 2 lost sons, because in this parable you also meet the jealous brother, who is as lost in his own world probably as the other brother was lost. But in this parable, we will look at Sunday the movement of it. There's a lot of things going on there. There certainly is the arrogant son who demands what's really not his, but demands it anyway and takes off and wastes it and squanders it. And he goes off into what is described as the far country. And in that day and time, that might have been 30, 40 miles away over in Gentile country. But it's the place where you go to waste God's goodness and what is good and merciful in your life. He just threw it away. Had some bad luck too, but whatever. We find in the story that he had a moment where he came to his senses, and that's even interesting a way to phrase it, but when everything crashed in on him, he suddenly went, duh, maybe I need to go home where I really am somebody. Maybe I won't have to live with the pigs. Maybe I won't be in complete poverty if I go and put myself on my knees and make some kind of confession to my Father. Surely he'll love me again and take me in. So we look at that. But something I today want to tell you we'll be looking at Sunday is the interesting aspect of the Father's response. The homecoming scene is one of the most joyous scenes in all the Bible, the party, where there that boy comes home and you would think he would be met with some form of punishment or disdain or disapproval. But no, the story describes this Middle Eastern man who was the patriarch of the family, who was a farmer, but who had some wealth in this day and time. It describes him literally running down the road, falling on the neck of this lost son, kissing him with great affection. I did a little study on that and learned that that's just not common in Middle Eastern culture, particularly in Jesus' day. It was Ben Sirach that said a man of means does not run. Aristotle said great men never run in public. Now, this man sprints, his robes flying, his hair tangled in the wind. He repeatedly kisses his son, not with a formal public kiss, but with the kiss of maybe a mother's love even. And by the way, where is the mother in this story? I guess in the story, the father is in both roles, the compassionate, loving father and mother. A Middle Eastern scholar named Ken Bailey helped me a little bit to picture this scene in my mind. He said that a wealthy Mideastern farmer didn't typically live way out of town. They usually lived in the village, which is where more things were happening, where there was more access to goods. So the long road in the story is not really what we sometimes see in our mind, this long pastoral setting where there's nobody but the image of the boy and the image of the father. I sort of picture the Gone with the Wind scene of the return of Ashley Wilkes, who's limping down the road to Tara, and they can see him miles away. This scholar would say, no, this father's house is most likely at the edge of the village near Main Street. The son has to come home back through the village, most likely, where he's despised, and the gossip is already out about him. And imagine what the scene of that was like as he went through this gauntlet of people that knew what he did and who disdained him for being so wasteful. Some who were poor that said, man, if I only had that opportunity, I wouldn't waste it. He walks through the middle of town and the father sees him and runs through the middle of town. He has compassion, and he stands with him, even in the degree of shame that it had to have brought on his son. I love the story of Pee Wee Reese and Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was the first African-American baseball player. Pee Wee Reese was a Southern boy, captain of the Brooklyn Dodgers. They were raining boos down on Jackie Robinson somewhere. And Pee Wee Reese decided, as captain of the team, he would stop the game and go over and stand by Jackie Robinson. The booing slowly subsided. When it quit, he walked back to his position at shortstop, and the umpire said, "Play ball." So he stood with him. I hope there have been people to stand with you in your life. There have been for me. And I hope you have a picture of God in your mind, that he is glad to run to us and stand with us in his love. Hope to see you Sunday if you're in Sandestin. If not, if you want to watch this sermon virtually, you're welcome to. And I hope you have a great week.